Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first Meet the Alumni session. We will be interacting with Dipti. Hi, Dipti. Nice to meet you face to face
Hi.
finally. Yeah, good to see you. Just a small couple of hygiene checks before we begin, and we can go ahead and get started after that. Everyone knows if you have any question, you can use the Q&A and you can use the chat feature to ask. And this session today is designed for you to do that a lot. I mean, our Meet the Alumni session, we were planning them to be physical sessions, but due to the pandemic, we've decided they all be virtual. But we want to retain that spirit of, a coffee shop kind of session or, meeting over a dinner, for example. So we'd encourage you to, in this particular session, to direct your questions specifically to these experiences, whether it's student life or placements or academics or whatever you feel, and any process related stuff, which is admissions or any form related things or scholarships, etc. Just keep the logistics things aside for the next hour. If you have any questions regarding those, of course you can reach the admissions team. I will be helping you answer that on the chat if I do have the leverage to do so. But yeah, today we just have an informal conversation with our one of our students from the first cohort. So it's a good insight for everyone who's here to just see what life is like in masters unions from a student perspective. And everyone who is invited here as well, it's a smaller exclusive group. As you can see, we've not really opened the webinar to everyone. It's people who are almost done or are done with their applications, and it's a very, say, high intent group. So all of your peers around you, you're all very keen on applying to masters union. Okay, so having said that, we'll go ahead and get started with the session then. So as I've told you guys, you can start putting in your questions in both the chat box and the Q&A box. But I'd just like to start by welcoming Deepti. Thank you for taking out the time from I presume a busy Friday evening, and sharing it with us in terms of talking to our potential applicants, prospective students. And yeah, just perhaps a small introduction, and then maybe we can get started.
Sure, Karan. It's a pleasure to be here. I can't believe it's already been a year and we're alums of the Institute. But hello, everyone. My name is Dipti, and I was the part of the founding cohort of Masters Union. I graduated last November in 2021, and post that, I have been working as a senior associate with Boston Consulting Group. Prior to that, I have over 5 years of experience in data and analytics at a firm called Mu Sigma, and I'm an engineer by qualification earlier. And I'm very happy to be here, and hopefully I'll be able to help resolve some of the queries that you all have. And yes, let's get started.
Great, great. So we have some questions rolling in immediately. There's something I'll be balancing this and moderating it at the same time. So questions will be centered around the alumni experience. So anyway, Dipti, the first questions they've already started
Hmm.
flying in. So we'll
Yeah.
just keep the session around their questions. So first
Sure.
question is, what made you choose Masters Union?
Yeah. So let me just paint a picture of what was happening in the year 2020. I'm sure all of you are aware of the situation that we were all in. There was, there was the pandemic, there was lockdown, and I'm sharing a very personal story. It could be different for a lot of my peers, but I specifically found that my particular job was getting a little stagnant. I did have MBA on my horizon. I wanted to apply to B schools, but unfortunately, 2020 was a year where I could not have given. I had a GMAT score, but I wasn't extremely happy with it, and I couldn't have given it again because, if you all know, GMAT was all online during 2020, and people were not really doing that great at GMAT at that point of time. And I also wanted to be in India. I didn't specifically look at any colleges abroad. So with all that in mind, and also I was taking the decision somewhere around June, July of 2020, where I wanted to do something immediately. All the other B schools would have started the following year, that is 2021, right? So with all of that in mind, and of course, Masters Union was a new thing that time. I had actually heard it from a friend who was applying, and the thing that really interested me was, the fact that it was technology-based management, and I found that technology was a strong suit for me given my experience, right? So with that in mind, and I was very impressed with the kind of masters that were on board, right? Folks like Arun Myra, Mr. Mukund Rajan, right? Very influential figures, right? So that really made me curious. And more I read about it, and more I interacted with the masters during my interview process, I felt more confident. And of course, after I got in, my cohort group was amazing. So I think I was very assured of my decision. And then, I decided to go ahead with it.
Got it. Got it. I mean, on a similar line, someone has asked you over here, who was one of the most inspiring faculty slash CXOs for you in Masters Union?
There were many, but for me, there were two. If I can just for if it comes to the top of my mind, first one is Mr. Jamshed Abu. He was my mentor. He was the ex-CEO of Titan, and also he's running his own niche consulting firm in the consumer product division right now. He was someone who was extremely, influential for me because I had a lot of one-on-one interactions with him, and the way he also took a short course for us, a boot camp for us on retail management. And I myself am very enthusiastic about retail and consumer products. So I think I found him extremely, proficient in the topic, and the way he taught was something, was actually a very different experience for us. Second is Mr. Satish Krishnan. He is the MD of Standard Chartered. He took a course for us on how financial markets work. And I consider myself a noob at finance, but believe me, his class was something that none of us wanted to miss. The way he taught us, be it the different kinds of financial markets, we learned the whole foreign exchange, current scenarios that were working. So I think it was a wonderful course. And also, apart from the masters, I'm sure all of you know, we also have in-house faculty. So one of the other course that I'm really, I think that's something which only Masters Union has currently, is a platform economics course by Dr. Akash Krishnan. He's an in-house faculty. And I think that is the most relevant course that any B school can teach you today, because it is about the existing platforms like Uber and Swiggy, etc., and how exactly do the economics of these, companies work. So yeah, I think that's the answer to it. There are more, in the list, but I think we should keep this for the top.
Got it. Got it. And a very interesting question. Thank you, Saloni, for asking this. What was the best experience apart from the academics? Something you didn't expect when you were applying at Masters Union, but you've probably encountered, and something apart from the academics that you felt.
Yeah, I think, of course, there were a lot of, like any B school, there were a lot of clubs and committees, and the advantage that we all had was, we were the ones who were defining how a club or a committee in the B school would look like. So for me, I was a part of the placement committee. So I think the different kind of experiences that we had while we were at the placement committee, being the first year of the college, was very interesting, because we got to meet a lot of CXOs and CEOs. We got to introduce the college to a lot of these folks. We took a lot of panel discussions. So if you see some of I'm sure you must have seen some snippets on Instagram and on LinkedIn where a student actually sits across a CEO or a CXO personality, and they are having a fireside chat with him. So I think we participated in a lot of these things. So that really was a highlight for me. And apart from that, I think another very interesting thing that happened during our time was two of our startups which came from the cohort. They're called Bullspree and the 8. Both the startups actually launched in the college. So, you could think of it like a boardroom, but instead of that, it was actually a classroom where all the students were there, and the startup was actually going live at that point of time. That was a very surreal experience where you could actually see your batchmates doing something as big as starting their own company, but we were all surrounded by, the whole cohort in the college. So that was something very exciting.
That's great to hear. And I mean, something that I pick up is you're talking more about the ecosystem, the environment that is created, and being around these people. So your own confidence or your own acumen kind of raises to a point where the environment is influencing you to kind of up your level or up your game rather than
Yeah.
anything else. So that's great
Yeah.
great to hear. Let's get into something placement related. Mahesh had asked initially, he's saying, hope you're safe and fine during the pandemic. Thanks, Mahesh. And he's asked, tell us about your journey he's asked for BCG, but
Hmm.
I assume towards consulting, and how you got interested and how perhaps a small snapshot of your placement journey there.
Sure. Hi, Mahesh. I think for me, I was very clear that I did want to get into a consult role while I applied for my MBA. Although I personally did not have an aim of getting into the MBBs because I wasn't sure if they were going to recruit from a new college. So I started my prep somewhere around September, October, almost a month after we got into B school. um, the prep was more around looking at different case books that are available in the in the ecosystem today. You will find a lot of case books from IIMs, ISP, etc. And we started practicing amongst us. So there were a lot of folks in the batch who were interested in a similar profile, and all of us we used to form groups of three, and we used to sit together and practice these cases where one person would be the interviewer, one person would interview, and there'd be a third person who would just moderate the whole format. And that actually helped with a lot of that actually helped me understand if consulting is actually meant for me, and also of course helped me prep. There were also a lot of boot camps arranged by the college. You also get to speak to a lot of folks from the industry who are ex-consultants, right? A lot of the faculty that you will see over here have also done consulting at some point of time in their career, right? Some of them. So you get to speak with them, you get to interact with them, and you get to get some tips from them, right? So we had boot camps, we had this opportunity to interact with a lot of masters. And yes, January of this year, we got to know that BCG will be coming to campus, and that's when we actually started preparing very rigorously. That we have a MBB coming to the college, and post that, we had the internship interviews. Internship interviews were very standard, just as it is done across all the other IIMs and ISPs. And yes, I got through, and I got a PPO from there, which is a pre-placement offer. And yes, I just joined this week actually. This was my first week at
Congratulations.
BCG. Yes, and I'm just getting through my trainings.
Fantastic. So, I mean, talking all the way from the present, I think we should talk about the past, because there's an interesting question which has been asked in the chat, which is, how did your experience at Mu Sigma help during your PJP journey? So maybe some thought about that.
Right. Right. I think coming from some work experience certainly helps because you tend to at least pick up a few things. Like for example, you would have heard about let's say price demand curve, or you would have heard about what's happening in the software world, like what is a Tableau, what is R, for example. So I think coming from the industry certainly helps. For me, it was much more helpful because I came from a data analytics background, and we were doing a technology-based management course. So a lot of initial courses like be it statistics or be it R programming, I think I was able to develop certain things initially. But I would also say that I also got to learn a lot of things while I knew the software. I think the college also helps you develop a more managerial viewpoint towards these things, because you now need to think about how businesses can be affected by building a model, or by creating a descriptive report. So having experience helps, but it's also equally challenging because you will have to adapt to a new situation now. It's not just your work; you also have to think about how these softwares or these technologies can now shape the businesses in a different way, which is what I think the college really helped.
Got it. Got it. Got it. There's some questions about the tech focused aspect of Masters Union, and I'm going to take a couple of questions in this kind of aspect itself. So Jatin has asked on the chat. He's saying that because Masters Union is a tech focused MBA, does it become tricky to get into other specializations? And similarly, Ayush has also asked. He's like he's interested in finance, but I guess there's a concern that if it's too tech based, or that's the kind of I'd say, consideration people are having. So what would be your comments on that?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, I probably can't talk about this from first-hand experience, but I had a lot of friends. I had 5 friends in my, close circle who were all CAs, right? And for them, they used to struggle in classes where they had to code or, where they had to build a Tableau dashboard. But at the end of it, what they took away was the fact that, I mean, of course, no job in the fintech world or in the managerial world is going to expect you to sit and code, right? But the fact that you know that there is a software like R, or you know that there is Python going on in this world, right? But will actually help you tackle conversations much better, right? So it's not a disadvantage for anyone to be more tech savvy, even if you come from a finance background, because the world today is actually moving towards that. It also helped a lot of my finance background friends to crack fintech interviews, right? Because fintech companies, apart from your finance knowledge, also look for product understanding, right? So having some background and some expertise from the core actually help them crack these interviews much faster. So yes, you have to be willing to learn tech-based courses, but it is not specifically limited to just your product management courses. Companies otherwise also value the fact that you do have some understanding of technology.
Got it. Thank you about that. There's a fantastic question that's come in on the chat. Soumya has asked us, could you please share your biggest challenge in pivoting to consulting at BCG and how you overcame it? And what platforms at Masters Union did you leverage apart from the case prep? Was it any clubs? Was it any networking events? Any faculty that helped you out? So yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Soumya, yes, I did have a pivot. I came from data analytics and consulting. But I think one thing remains constant between the two roles is that you have to have a will to solve problems, right? So I think that is one of the most pivotal things that you will see in the consulting world as well, right? So I think apart from I feel if with that in mind, I was able to really and I hope I get to adapt as quickly as possible, because I think at the end of the day that's what is expected, that you solve problems using data, using your understanding of the business. And apart, in terms of platforms, I think any B school, I mean, I'm not just saying that Masters Union does this, but any B school will push you to come in front and make as many presentations as possible. So I sort of did leverage that. I always took the chance to make a presentation or speak in front of my class, because that sort of preps you in terms of giving more concise presentations, thinking on your feet when there is a question posed, right? So that really helped. Secondly, there are a lot of case competitions within the B school and also inter B school. So the college kept broadcasting a lot of these case competitions, and we ourselves also amongst the student community always kept looking for these case competitions. So I think these are the two I think major things, apart from what I'd already mentioned, the case books, faculty, and the masters, of course.
Right. I think something that I guess we touched on before, being the ecosystem or the environment with so many things happening at the same time, giving a student to kind of tailor their experiences both academically and with the co-curricular engagements that exist.
Right.
So, I mean, for anyone, if you want to kind of tailor it and based on your interests, you're completely free to do that at Masters Union. There are three questions I can see about the drop shipping project. People are very curious to know what's that about and how could you expand on your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think dropshipping, when I heard about it, very frankly, I was very terrified of the fact that the first project that we're doing is a dropshipping project where we knew nothing about building a website. We were actually thinking that it might be some sort of a simulation, but that's when we realized that it's an actual project where you have to actually sell and make money. So it is a very overwhelming experience. But I wouldn't say I did extremely well in this project, but we actually started a mentoring program. We didn't do drop shipping in the conventional way. We started a website called Propeller, where we were focusing on providing a mentoring platform for students from underprivileged background, right? So that is what we went towards. We went towards services kind of a dropshipping project. We didn't do very great in terms of sales or making money, but I think what we really worked towards was a good marketing strategy. We had a very nice website. We had a very good Instagram page. We created a lot of posts, and that sort of was a great learning for us. Yeah, I mean, I think there were there were definitely other projects which got really good, sales. There's something called Artisans in Banjara. You could look it up on Instagram, and that is done by a very close friend of mine. And they actually went to the Banjara market here in Gurgaon, and they sort of, digitized the whole process with the help of an influencer. So yeah, people did a lot of crazy things. I personally don't think I did something very great, but it was a good learning experience for me.
No, I guess that's the main result for everyone, is to have that learning experience. And from the dropshipping project, I think Shreya has asked a question about the VIP, or the Venture Initiation Program. And she says it sounds exciting. It sounds a little intimidating too, given that not everyone may have their own ideas to work on their own startup. Was it, compulsory, or how easy or difficult was it for you when doing this?
Right, right. So for us, for the 2020 batch, it was an optional program. If you did have an idea and you were very passionate about it, for example, the startup that I spoke about previously, all of them had, enrolled into the Venture Initiation Program. But I think in this current year, the college has become, I would say, bold, and actually made it a point that everybody, has some sort of an idea. Of course, it need not be an individual idea, but if you have a friend who's very passionate about a certain idea in the cohort, and you want to get along with them, I think that is what the program is promoting. And you might not end up becoming an entrepreneur after your course, and that is completely okay. The idea of Venture Initiation Program is to help you understand the various aspects of what goes into a startup or what goes into a business. You might be interested in marketing, so you should just probably focus on the marketing part of that startup. But giving it a try I think definitely would be something that I'm sure, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Karan, I think it's compulsory for the students of this batch, but just to ensure that they get that experience. It is not a mandate that all of you have to start that, or all of you have to start a company or be interested in startups. But it's a good way to learn. It's a live project, essentially.
Right. I'd just like to add to Deepti's point that a lot of companies, when they recruit, a lot of corporates, they look at entrepreneurial experience as a big factor when they come and hire as well. So if someone has entrepreneurial experience, especially for jobs that a lot of our alums have got, which have been an entrepreneur in residence kind of job. So having that kind of experience is quite analogous to, moving towards a corporate and kind of doing smaller projects within that. So I would say having that kind of experience, as Dipti has mentioned, is useful in any case. There's something else, Deepti. There's 2-3 questions that have come around being a fresher versus someone being, having a certain amount of work experience. So people are asking if it makes an impact on placements, or how can freshers ensure that, they utilize, or they have a good shot, first of all, and they have they utilize their time as effectively as something. So what would be your take on this?
See, I believe, there are freshers in every college, in every MBA program that you see. And
sorry to cut you off, but statistically, just for everyone's knowledge, we are about 20% of our batch is freshers every year.
Yeah. Right. So no, I feel one of the freshers of our batch. He is actually topping the batch. The topper of our batch is a fresher, right? There's a fresher who got into Bain. There's a fresher who got into a really cool marketing role. So I feel, it's not about the fact that you don't have experience. There are some aspects, where you probably have to put in more work if you're a fresher, because, you've probably not seen that part of the business world, which is all right. An experienced person would probably put in that effort somewhere else. For example, if you're a finance graduate, believe me, you would beat any person who has, for example, me. You would definitely outrun me in any finance course, right? But at the same time, you might have to put in a little bit more work in a statistics course, for example, right? So I think there are both pluses and minuses. I don't think anyone is at a disadvantage over here, because when we start, all of us are at the same pace. and all of us are evaluated at a similar level. It's not like a experienced person is given more weightage when it comes to placements or when it comes to any other opportunity for that matter.
Got it. So I hope everyone who's asked questions, there's a lot of them around, how are freshers able to adjust or how are they able to use this. So I hope that kind of quells your queries regarding this. There's some interesting questions about, say, the brand of Masters Union. Let me kind of form it that way. So someone's asking that, now that you're an alumni and you've graduated from the program and you're at the workplace now, how do you feel? And even if you have to compare it, there's two other questions that have comparing it to the other IIMs, for example, or SP Jain is another name that's taken. Uh,
Right.
what would you say that, how would you feel as an alum of Masters Union? Where do you stand, and would you recommend it for upcoming generations? Like, um, I think we can forecast that answer and predict what it's going to be like. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting space to be
Mm,
because every time I tell someone at BCG that I'm from Masters Union, I have to take a pause and explain to them that okay, Masters Union is a newbie school. We started here. We're doing this. We're doing that. So I think in these initial years, of course, we are not IIM ABC that people are going to just catch our names. But I think it's a very interesting proposition that we have, and people get hooked when you tell them that this is what we believe in, and this is our ideology, and these are the things that we have done, and the fact that you are in one of the good companies in the country. It sort of reestablishes the fact that yes, the college and the faculty and the pedagogy has worked, right? I feel very, I feel like I'm a product of something very new. I feel like I'm the startup amongst the IMs.
mm,
So I personally, feel that of course we are moving towards. We're moving towards there, to be a household name, for example, when it comes to the MBAs. But I think it's also very interesting because you have a very easy conversation started with anyone. I'm sure if I get on a project and if I talk to my partner, I can easily spend 5 minutes just talking about masters. So, there are both, again, pluses and minuses to it. And I feel quite confident about the brand doing really great in the coming few years.
right. And, our idea, at least, just to kind of add a couple of lines to Deepti's point, if you compare it to the IIMs, they have about 79 years of existence ahead of us. So we've just been around for the last year. So do give us that time. I do think that we will most certainly catch up. But the other thing is that given our placement record that's just happened and the news that's been around it, what we thought of, it was a concept, right? What we were looking at was we were talking to employers. What we were seeing, where is that lack in the product that's coming out from a typical MBA college, right? What were the expectations of the employers and where was that lack? And we decided that it needed to be at the synthesis of both tech and business. So that's something that we felt that an experience had to be curated, which is, as Dipti has pointed out, and many of you have asked, it's not just an academic engagement, but there's co-curricular engagements like the venture initiation project or the dropshipping project, which are also graded, right? So those are things that or live experiences that I would say that are lauded here. A very workshop style or internship style of study. Would you agree with that, Dipti? Like that kind of approach?
Yes, I would completely agree. And I will just give a small example. Like just last week, someone from ISB asked me, "Yeah, what is this masters uni? Kya ho raha hai? What is this? What is it that you guys are doing?" So there's so much curiosity already in the market. So I feel yes, in the coming few years, we'll definitely be there.
Got it. Got it. Got it. There's Anamika who's asked a question, and perhaps she's asked it specific to HR, but you could generalize it and assume it to being from other industries. She says that I belong to the HR domain, and I'd like to pursue my career in HR. On. Is it worth giving Masters Union a try for non-IT students? And are there what are the chances of selection according to you? For what kind of students are they looking for in terms of what you think? I mean, I could obviously answer the second half of the question much better, but maybe you can take a crack at the first half.
Sure. I think it's quite similar to what we just discussed earlier. If
Hmm.
you're a non-IT student, it is all right because even if you go to the HR domain, we had a course on how to work with people, which was basically the HR course. And in that we actually spoke about a lot of HR management systems. How could you, what is happening in the world today? How are the Googles and Amazons of the world redefining the way they engage with people? And it was made equally interesting and equally important. And there are also a lot of opportunities. So I think, Anamika, the advantage that probably you would have is that there is a lot of there's a lot of demand in the HR industry, I would say. But I think not a lot of people are very interestingly pursuing that right now. So I think, of course, you can definitely look at a very good career, and the fact that you will have a technology education over here will also help you get there. Um, and yeah, I think there are a lot of courses, there are a lot of faculties, and there are a lot of there's this one particular master called named Miss Rakshita, who is one of the most seasoned HRs in the industry today, and she has been mentors to a lot of folks in the batch who are very interested in working with the people, working in the HR domain. So you will get the right guidance for sure.
Got it. And one thing I'd like to expand on to what Dipti said is perhaps if any of you are interested in the placements, for you to go and check out the placements webinar that was conducted by Pratham, which is up on our YouTube channel as well. A philosophy I think Masters Union has followed in placements is for the students to focus on a few companies rather than span and go large and wide and apply everywhere. So just focusing on certain companies, knowing about the companies, doing research on them, making wireframes or business plans or whatever. If you're interested in HR, and you can keep those companies that you're looking at within that particular domain. And as correctly Dipti has pointed out, like I'm not sure an HR professional who can also make web apps in Python would be the most common thing. So having that kind of dual business experience as well as tech experience, I think will add value, because analytics is again becoming a huge part of HR as we move forward. So that was Anamika's question. There are questions more about the curriculum. We can talk. Someone's asking, how is it when we compare it with IM or ISPs? So, I mean, a simple answer to that would be that I would say they focus more just on business. And if you look at Masters Union curriculum, which you can see on our website as well as our course roster, it's a mixture of tech and of business. But maybe, like, springboarding of this, let me ask one question of my own. Can you tell me any moment in class that stands out, or couple of moments in class, or any particular moment with the master that stands out, that this class or this way, this concept that was taught to me was taught in a very unique way, or a memorable kind of takeaway moment or something like that?
I think a memorable moment. I will leave all the class presentation aside, but we actually participated in a case competition with KPMG. It was a business ideation challenge, and that was the first competition that the college had actually got. Through the semifinals, right? So it was a big achievement, and we were there making a presentation, and it was a very surreal moment, because three of us were making a presentation and the whole class of 60 students was cheering for us from the outside. It is not
Yeah.
something that you see in all B schools, because
Mm.
the bigger the batch gets, believe there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of crisscrossing happening. But I think one thing which I've seen very evidently happen here is that people are helping each other. And that sort of comes from the fact that all of you have taken the same bet, right? And you do empathize with the other person. So you definitely want your peers to succeed, because that is the only way you also succeed, given it's a new college. You don't have a established brand name to just take you off. But the fact that because someone from your college, went ahead and started a great startup, which tomorrow probably becomes a unicorn, that is when Masters Union actually gets its name on the table. So I think that sort of feeling is very naturally coming in the cohort. Even the second cohort, I do see some instances like that. So I think that's very encouraging.
Got it. I mean, one another question, sorry, that I can see that's rising in terms of it's more admissions related, and that's pretty interesting to see because people are talking more about numbers as well as how they can prep themselves. So maybe as an alum, how would you give someone, and let's split this answer into a work experience answer and a freshers answer. So as a Masters Union alum, if someone is preparing their application for Masters Union, what would be the couple of tips that you would give someone who's a fresher, and a couple of tips you would give someone who has work experience?
Sure. I think the process definitely has changed a little bit since the time I made my application. But I think there's this one space. I mean, of course, you have your usual profile, your education, your personal information, etc. But I think the one space where you can really make a difference is the essay, right? So I think you should really leverage. If you're a fresher, then you should really leverage your focus of study in your undergrad. You could probably leverage some of the internships that you've done, or your extracurriculars that you've done during your college days, right? So, and also, I think being a fresher, you also have a lot of liberty in probably talking about what you want to do, right? Even in interviews, when you're asked that, what is it that you want to do after an MBA? Believe me, it becomes extremely difficult for someone coming with an experience to say that I want to do so and so, I want to do marketing, but I come from product management background. It's very difficult to justify it. But if you're coming as a fresher, you have a blank slate, right? If you are experienced, I think, and if you are thinking about pivoting your role, I think it's very important that you have good reasoning as to why you're doing that, right? And why do you believe you will be successful, right? So I think, and of course, I mean, if you're experienced, you can always use your background. You can always use, what is it that you've done in the past, and and that is how your applications can stand out.
Great. So yeah, just to expand on Deepti's answer and answer this question from an admissions kind of perspective. As we're looking at it, for freshers, we see that number one, leadership. We're looking at leadership potential and qualities of leadership. So when it comes to displaying leadership potential, it's not necessary that you've had to have worked in a company, for example. It could be you were a captain of a sports team or volunteering somewhere, or things like that. Make sure that let us know about that in your applications. And as Deepti correctly pointed out, for people who have more work experience, we can we look at your work experience and how you would use Masters Union as an inflection point to perhaps pivot, or how it would fit in your career arc or in that trajectory, how Masters Union would lie. We'd want you to convince us of the same. So that's something that I guess that hopefully answers that question. So moving onwards, I think you had mentioned, Deepti, before about your friends, a couple of friends who were CAs as well. We have Gaurav who's asking us that he said that comparing with IIMs and other colleges, Masters Union's curriculum is updated, futuristic, tech driven, and that's what I value the most. But as I'm a chartered accountant, do you see this program is going to add value to, like, a chartered accountant profile? And according to you, like, just as a friend of these people, how did they navigate the program?
See, I'm very honest. I think till the fourth term or the fifth term, I think we were doing very basic finance because, of course, all of us had to catch up. So, of course, my friends, felt that, okay, this is something that they knew, and, they were not probably, learning something extremely new. Of course, there were some aspects, that they used to learn. But I think one thing that they were really invested in was MUIF, which is Masters Union Investment Fund. So they were the folks who were, a part of the 11-member group who were running the 5 crore investment fund. And that is where they really invested a lot of their time, and that is where they got really good learnings because they were researching about companies. They were talking about term sheets. They were helping them. They were actually helping companies build up their term sheets, understand what investment possibilities are available. They were also studying the market very carefully, and helping the fund identify areas where they can invest. So I think that sort of took a lot of time of their time, of the time in the college, and that's where they actually learned a lot, because as a group they used to sit together, they used to discuss, brainstorm about new ways, think about building in the technology and building in what they were learning in the classrooms into the fund. So I think that is an interesting area for you to look out for.
Got it. And that's a good pivot position because one thing I don't think we've talked a lot about is in this webinar, and maybe I can just move the conversation for a bit towards that direction before we wind up, is more of the student life element of how life was for you in Masters Union. So my first question, and just I'm asking this candidly because I don't know, is did you live in the hostel at your time there?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. So why don't you give us, some of your hostel experiences? I think that's more interesting.
Any college, any B school for that
Mm.
matter, it's extremely important that you probably stay around the folks that you're attending your college with,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
believe me, there were late night assignments, there were late night parties, right, which you didn't want to miss.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for us, our hostel building sort of became a home, because it was we used to we used to have parties, we used to of course sit together for assignments. There have also been times then all of us used to sit in the conference room and one person used to teach us for an exam the next day, right? So it's been that as well. We've done a lot of festivals in the hostel, because I think last year Diwali we didn't have a long break, so we actually celebrated Diwali in the hostel. We decorated the whole hostel with diyas, and we were all dressed up. We also started playing cricket towards the end of it. We had a small area, near the hostel, and we got floodlights, and we were actually playing cricket almost every day for the last 2 months of our college there. So I think wonderful experience. Of course, it was very well facilitated. Also, I mean, in terms of logistics, we did have hot water, geysers. We had ACs in the room, and it was a well spaced out room. I mean, even if you're going for a two-bedroom, two people accommodation in one bedroom, it was very comfortable. I stayed in a sharing room. So very comfortable and also very safe. Gurgaon, I was a little skeptical in the beginning, but it was a nice residential area, and it was very safe to even travel during night, or get cabs. So very accessible as well. We had a small market nearby. So I think for me it was definitely good. Of course, I mean, you will have certain issues. There were times when something was not working or something was not getting done in time. But I think that as a system we have to improve, and that is something which will also eventually keep improving.
Right. I mean, just to give people more context, that the Masters Union hostels are very close by to our campus, and we have shuttles that commute between the hostel and the campus to ferry students around. And I mean, so you had a twin sharing, you said, and you had a roommate as well,
Yes.
right? So how are your experiences with the roommate? I assume you must have formed a great bond over the time you spent
Yes,
with them. Yeah.
definitely. I mean, she's one of the CAs I was talking about, one of the
Okay.
close circle. So yeah, I think we used to have a blast of time. Both, our room was sort of the party hub
Oh, fantastic.
of the hostel. At the same time, it was also the place where people used to come with their assignments, because she used to be really great at finance assignments. I used to be good at statistics and the consulting assignments. So it was a mix of both worlds for us. But it was a good experience.
Awesome. And so Gaurav has asked a couple of student life questions. Is how about the food at hostel is number one? How's that?
Um, Gaurav, I actually did not opt for the food in the hostel, mainly because I was the timings for me never really worked out. But I think initially, again, to be very honest, initially there were some changes in the vendors that we made. But post that, I think people were quite happy with the food, and we used to have breakfast and dinner served in the hostel. Lunch, not really, because that's where most of the time you're in the college
Mm.
during lunch. You have lunch served on the weekends, and you also have a vending machine in the hostel. You also have a functional kitchen where you can heat up food, or you want to make something, you can do that.
Got it. Awesome. Awesome. And one more question he's asked, was there any freshers party or celebration kind of thing that you had yeah,
Yeah,
how was
yeah,
that
we did.
experience?
We did. We did have a freshers. We had an official fresher. We also had an unofficial fresher this time, because this time we actually, I mean, we were seniors and we had to give a fresher last. During our time, we probably did that for ourselves. But yeah, we always have fun parties for sure. And I think our fresher party was held at Taj. Taj City Center in Gurgaon, and
Hmm.
we had a blast of the time. The whole management was also present. Our project director was present, and we had a gala time. Eating, drinking. So I think it was definitely. I think our parties have always been really great.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And there's just, I think, two more questions that I'd like to kind of ask you. I think there's a couple of questions that have come in on the batch size. So for people interested about that, as I mentioned at the start of the webinar, we want to direct questions today just to alumni and alumni experiences. You can, reach out to me or you can reach out to the admissions ID if you'd want to know more about the batch size, or we have another webinar coming up on Monday where you can same address these questions. How was your interview experience
Hmm.
when you were interviewing with the master? Why don't you talk more about that?
I had my interview with Mr. Satish Goyal. He was heading the Aviva Technologies, which manufactures these telecom phones that you see in your offices, etc. So my conversation was with him, and I remember it was a very healthy conversation, because I think the first thing that we did was he asked me about my job at Mu Sigma, and explaining data analytics to someone who doesn't probably doesn't work in that field is very challenging. So he really forced me to explain it to him in very layman terms. So that was one part, and then we also discussed about why do I want to do an MBA right now, because I had 5 years of experience. So that was one question that came up, and my answer was around the fact that I wanted to move to the business side of things, and I wanted to explore more opportunities in terms of especially in consulting and general management. And there were also questions around, why this year? Because of course it was a pandemic year, and also on the fact that what is it that I would bring to the table if I do get into master's union? What is it that I would bring to the table? So I think my answer was around the fact that I definitely will add to the diversity. I also, believe that if I really understood the values of the college, and if I really believed in it, I will definitely be a flag holder for the college, and I'll definitely help spread the ideology of the college. So I think questions around that, and I think it was a very although I was a little I was a little nervous in the beginning, but I think it was a very smooth conversation, and something that you would really enjoy.
Got it, got it. And final question I think I'd like to address to you is Jayant has asked us, what did a typical day at Masters Union look like? Could you walk us through a 9 o'clock and to a 9 a.m. to a 9 p.m. kind of breakdown of the day?
Sure. Usually our classes start at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So, you manage your morning tours accordingly. You have a bus service from the college to take you to from the hostel to the college. We typically have 2-hour classes. Usually it used to be 9 to 11, 11 to 1, and then 1 o'clock used to be the lunch break. We used to have 2 hours of break in the middle. 2 hours of break was generally utilized to sort of get your pre-reads done for the next classes, because you do get a set of pre-reads which you have to read before you come to the class, right? So a lot of time, because we hadn't done it the night before, so we used to do it during that time. It was also a good time for you to sort of go around, meet your faculty, maybe hold your club meeting. So there used to be these small rooms where clubs used to get together. They used to discuss their tasks. Anything, if there's an upcoming event for them, they used to do that. And then we used to have classes in the afternoon. So this is a typical. Generally a typical day in the college would go around 6 p.m. on a normal day. There are of course good days and bad days. Bad days in the sense it does go till 8 p.m. on certain days, because I think you also have to understand that you are taught by masters, and their schedule is more important than our schedule. So there are times when you have to stretch a little bit, but there are also days when you get really less classes, but then you also have the time to focus on other activities. So in short, you will be occupied from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You will have enough time to have your lunch, catch up with your friends, do your usual things. But it definitely is a busy time. Business schools are supposed to do that, and they're supposed to help you cope with the fast pace of life. And of course, after coming back to hostel, you have time to again do some relaxing, and then of course there might be some assignments that you have to take care of. A typical day, a normal day would probably end for you by midnight, and then you will have enough time for a good 8 hours sleep. On certain days, you would not. So I think you should also be prepared for that.
I think, yeah, the not sleeping bit is something that I do see is an element at Masters Union, and I'd like to concur. It's quite academically rigorous, and it does in require an intense level of effort from everyone. But I guess, as you're right, it prepares you, it gives you that stamina to be able to handle a typical corporate like workload and balance that. Anyway, I think it's 7:50 and we'll probably be wrapping up the session. So I really want to thank Dipti for her time. Like, it's been 50 minutes and I know it's a great interaction that we've had. I hope a lot of your questions were answered. I don't know if Dipti, you had similar questions before you joined, but this seems like a very inquisitive bunch. And I definitely think that there were some interesting points that you'd made about the academic experiences as well as the student life experiences, and just made things more clear for people at Masters Union. Just a couple of points before we sign off. Number one, if there's any of your queries that weren't unanswered, feel free to write to us at info@the Masters Union or admissions@mastersunion.org, and we should be getting to answering them. And the second is, yes, we will be having a lot more events, so please be tuned to our events page on our website and sign up for the same. And the last and most important thing is that our admissions deadline is on the 23rd of Jan. So if you're on this call, you've probably started your application. So we would encourage you to complete it soon, after which your evaluation process will begin. So yes, that's all from me. Thank you so much, Deepti, once more. Best of luck with your job. Have a fantastic, I know it's been 1 week. I hope you've had a great week and many more weeks to come. But
Thank
thanks a
you.
lot for your time, and it's great having you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I
All
hope I
right.
was able to help. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Looking forward to everyone for attending future events. Signing off for today. So thanks everyone. Bye.